Hello, and welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Joel Wiltshire, and I am your worship associate for today. I am joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister, and Karen Magoon Pearson, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth. Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, is not with us today, but some of our wonderful choir members are filling in for her. We would also like to recognize the many volunteers who have helped put this service together today. And we respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Ahachiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value, that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones. For our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope you will find it here. Later in the service, we'll have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. Let our worship begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Please rise in body and spirit and join in singing our opening song, An Artist Had a Vision.
When we hear the word beauty, we inevitably think that beauty belongs to a special elite realm where only the extraordinary dwells. Yet without realizing it, each day each of us is visited by beauty. When you actually listen to people, it is surprising how often beauty is mentioned. A world without beauty would be unbearable. Indeed, the subtle touches of beauty are what enable most people to survive. Yet beauty is so quietly woven throughout our ordinary lives and days that we hardly notice it. Everywhere there is tenderness, care, and kindness, there is beauty.
mystical rapture. I am in ecstasy, beautiful vision. Don't ever separate me from your beautiful vision. In the darkest night, you are shining bright. You are my guiding light. Oh, you show me wrong from right. Beautiful vision. Stay with me all of the time. Beautiful vision. Stay ever on my mind with your beautiful vision. Oh, in the darkest night, in the darkest night, you are shining so bright. You are my guiding light. Yeah, you show me wrong from right. Beautiful vision. Stay with me all of the time. Beautiful vision. Stay ever on my mind with your beautiful vision. With your beautiful vision.
Beautiful singing, too. Beautiful vision. All right, so we have our story for this morning for children and children of all ages. So this is called Hide and Seek with God. So one day, it was after the 7 days, you can imagine, God was a little bored. He didn't have a whole lot to do. So it was long after that, and so he went to his friends and he said, you know, come on, let's play a game, let's do something. And they're like, well, what do you want to play? And he said, well, let's play hide and go seek, and I'll be the seeker. They were like, oh, right on, all right, this is great. So they thought, we're just gonna go wait for God to go hide, and then we're gonna go find them, all right. So one of his friends basically zoomed down to earth and was looking around everywhere under things. Where's God? Where's God? I don't know. Where's God? Then he saw a growing thing. Looked at the beautiful thing as it was flowering, this beautiful flower, and he said, oh, I found God. God's in things that are green and growing. God's in living green things. Well, another one of God's friends, they waited until night, until it had nightfall. We're waiting, looking everywhere and everything, and then started looking around at the night. I thought, wow, look how beautiful it is, how peaceful the darkness is. Everything, how special and how wonderful it was. And so she ran back to home base and said, I found God. God's in dark and peaceful. God is found in the night. But a third friend was looking around on earth and saw the mystery of the grass, and they go, okay, that's lovely and everything, but they saw the mystery of the darkness and the stars, and they were like, well, it's all really lovely and beautiful and everything, but they're wonderful mysteries, but I'm not sure they're really God. I'm not sure I want to call that God. And the fourth friend decided to go down and looked at all the people around them, and particularly saw a bunch of people helping refugees. They were feeding them and housing them and helping them. He said, I found God. God's in people helping other people. That's where God is. And then a couple of them went down and they were looking around everywhere, and they went into a home and they were looking around the home, and they went into the bathroom of that home, and then they looked above the sink into a mirror, and they went, oh, wait, there's God too. God's in us. So they all gathered back at the home base, ha ha, we found you, God. All these different places. God said, yeah, you're right. You found me in all of those places. Let's start the game over again. Ollie, ollie, oxen free. All right, that's our story for today. I'd like to invite Karen McGinn-Pearson, who's our Director of Religious Education. She's going to light the children's chalice as they go out, as we sing them out to their religious education classes.
We hold you in our love as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
All right, our reading today comes from a very famous book, if you're into drawing and things. It's called The Zen of Seeing. It's a really interesting book because it's all handwritten, the printing of it, which makes it kind of interesting to read. We're so used to reading printed things. At any rate, this guy, Frederick Frank, he said this. He said, we do a lot of looking. We look through lenses, telescopes, television tubes. Our looking is perfected every day, but we see less and less. Never has it been more urgent to speak of seeing. Ever more gadgets, from cameras to computers, from art books to videotapes, conspire to take over our thinking, our feeling, our experiencing, our seeing. Onlookers we are, spectators, subjects we are, that look at objects. Quickly we stick labels on all that is, labels that stick once and for all. By these labels, we recognize everything but no longer see anything. We know the labels on all the bottles but never taste the wine. We know the labels on all the bottles but never taste the wine. Millions of people, unseeing, joyless, bluster through life in their half-sleep, hitting, kicking, killing what they have barely perceived. They have never learned to see, or they have forgotten that they have eyes to see, to experience. When someone no longer experiences, the organs of his inner life wither away. Alone or in herds, they go on binges of violence and destruction. Looking and feeling both start with sense perception, but there the familiarity ends. When I look at the world and label its phenomena, I make immediate choices, instant appraisals. I like or I dislike. I accept or reject. What I look at according to its usefulness to the me. This me that I imagine myself to be and that I try to impose on others. The purpose of looking is to survive, to cope, to manipulate, to discern what is useful, agreeable, or threatening to the me, what enhances or what diminishes me. This we are trained to do on our first day. When, on the other hand, I see, suddenly I am all eyes. I forget this me. I'm liberated from it and dive into the reality that confronts me, become a part of it, to participate in it. So I want to invite you into a spirit of meditation. Quiet, if you want to take some deep breaths. And I invite you to consider, what do you think he means by seeing versus looking? What does he mean? When you're ready, please join in singing.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul.
So some of you know I've been exploring art for about the last 5 years, off and on. I grew up, art was a very mysterious thing to me. We had appreciation of art, like in my family, particularly when it came to music or some other things, being outdoors, that kind of thing. But art as a visual medium was very new, and it was this big mysterious thing out there. And I did not grow up drawing or any of those things. I remember having coloring books as a kid, but beyond that, pretty much didn't do anything. So today when I talk, by the way, I'm going to talk about our visual arts. There are many different types of arts, right? But I'm going to talk about visual arts because that's what I've been studying and doing. And I also want to point out that most of my knowledge, particularly with my Greek and Roman background, has been European art. I don't know much about Asian art or African art or any other type of art out there, but I do know Western art. So I just want to put that out there that I'll be talking mostly about that. So as most of you know, there's this huge mythos, I think. What I've learned is that there's this huge mythos around art and artists. That, either that you have to be the, the tortured soul of the artist, right? The one who cuts off his ear or whatever, right? Okay, no, you really actually don't. Or we've heard stories of like Michelangelo, and when he was asked, how do you create something like the Pietà? And he says, well, I actually just see it in the stone and I let it emerge, and you're like, right, okay, whatever, man. I hear stories like that and I'm like, yeah, that's so out of my realm, right? Like, I'm just never gonna go there. And it makes us think that art or doing art is for special people, right? That they have some sort of innate talent that they were born with, right? And as a matter of fact, when I talk about art, the very first thing that almost always, 9 times out of 10, the first thing people say to me immediately, jumping in, they say, I can only draw a stick figure. I can't draw, right? And I find that amusing because I used to do that too. Like, that was what I would do. If anybody ever mentioned doing any art of any kind, I can't draw. I can just do a thing, just a stick figure, barely even that, right? I'm not talented, right? So, well, here's the thing. I went from basically this, right, which hopefully all of us can do, to this. So I know it's like, oh, impressive sounds, right? Yeah, right? It looks impressive, and I have to admit I'm a little proud of this crow that I drew. But here's the thing. I'm really not talented. I learned how to do this. This is a learned skill. It's like anything. It's like learning to play the piano. You just gotta practice and do it over and over again, and then you can do it. Now, the other thing is that this is a drawing skill that I'm sort of showing off here. Whether or not it's art is up to you to decide. But one of the things that I learned is that, first of all, there's a lot of research out there that shows that there really is no such thing as talent. It really is a learned skill over and over again. And so I wanted to share with you today what I've learned about how to see like an artist. And what I've found is that there's actually 3 different ways that artists see the world, okay? And I call it looking, attention, and seeing, okay? I know Frank kind of disses looking, but I think looking is perfectly fine. Here we go. So looking, paying attention, and seeing. All right, so this is Sean's theory about it. This is how I broke down some of the mystery to me of what goes into being an artist. Okay, so the first is looking at things, all right? So like I said, Frank kind of looks down on this, but it isn't a bad thing to know how to look or to how to label or how to figure it out. To me, it's almost the first step in understanding art, right? You just got to look at it and see what's going on there. And this is a lot. I'm going to teach you 3 things that are often taught in artist appreciation. They're really looking at the skills of the artist, not necessarily their vision as an artist, but their skills. So this is a very intellectual approach, right? So looking is an intellectual exercise. So there are different ways that we do what's called composition in art. How do you compose the image? Where do you place it? All of those types of things, right? Well, it turns out that there are certain things that people have noticed over time that makes for beautiful art, like it's aesthetically pleasing. So one is called the rule of thirds, okay? So now you look at the painting on the left and you're not going to go, oh, the rule of thirds is applying there, okay. So what they mean by the rule of thirds is, there we go, so there's the rule of thirds. So what they're saying is that when you divide it into these blocks like tic-tac-toe blocks, right? You can see that the male figure is there on the right, right? And he's all in that one column. In the middle column, you see that there's the female figure. This is the Little Mermaid, the story of the Little Mermaid. I find it sort of amusing that this guy, Edmund Dulac, who is like famous for his rule of thirds, like he did everything in rule of thirds, but you know, he creates a Middle Eastern character for a Dutch story. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just kind of an interesting little observation. At any rate, so I mean, this is the rule of thirds. That this idea that you have sort of things in thirds makes it visually pleasing, and that there's balance somehow in there, right? And one of the things that this guy does, this understanding composition on this website here, is he points out, like, what if you were to change this, and how does it change the composition? So he changed it so that that column is straight down the middle, right? Now, what happens is your eye gets stuck on that column because it's right there smack dab in the middle, right? So your eye almost doesn't, no, suddenly you're like, oh, there's a column there, whereas if you were looking on the far left one, you might not even notice that there was a column there, right? You're focusing on the figures. So this is part of the rule of thirds that helps your eye to flow around much easier. Make sense? So this is a visually pleasing thing they're doing. The other one that I find really kind of fascinating is something called the golden ratio. Now the golden ratio occurs in nature, and it's supposed to be this sort of natural balance of visual harmony, okay? It's also known as the Fibonacci ratio or the golden mean. It's basically a ratio of 1 to 1.1 or 1.61, blah, blah. There's a whole mathematical thing about it. Don't ask me. Ask Don, he's the engineer and mathematician back there, if you want to understand it more. But the idea behind it is that this is a visually pleasing thing, and then you see it then in art, and in particular, it came up during the time of the Renaissance. So you see it a lot in Renaissance paintings, this different proportion, and you'll see the spiral, right? People put it toward like the Mona Lisa. This is all Leonardo da Vinci, right? He was such a big mathematician. Everybody looks at his stuff and applies the golden mean. I'm actually suspicious whether or not it actually really occurs, but it looks good, doesn't it? Okay, so it does occur in nature and everything. So at any rate, so this is the golden ratio, the Fibonacci ratio, whatever you want to call it. So The third thing that people will tell you what really helps make something beautiful in art is not only the golden mean and the rule of thirds, but another one is contrast, okay? So here you have on the left a high contrast painting. This is called the Moorish Chieftain. I saw this is a terrible picture actually of it, but I was in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and when I was in my 20s, I went to that art museum, and I just remember seeing it across the room in kind of a corner and just being immediately drawn to this thing. The idea of using strong contrast is very dramatic. It has a very dramatic feel. This painting is over life size as well, so it's so impactful when you see it. But then you have really something low contrast, like Water Lilies by Claude Monet. Now, modern artists don't do this as much, the low contrast, as Monet. So he kind of breaks the rule of contrast a little bit, which I think is kind of amusing. So, all right, so all of these ways of looking, right, at pieces are skills that you can learn about how to look at a piece or how to compose a piece as an artist. And there's a bunch of other ones as well. There's like line flow and there's color theory and everything. I just didn't have time to explain all of that. Maybe that's an auction piece we could do on there you go. I'll do that sometime, art appreciation. So, but all of these things, basically this was a lot of people's attempts to try to help us understand why do we like these pieces of art, these things. And so they came up with these things, right? And then so the second thing that I was looking at, there's another way of looking at art, and this is called paying attention, right? Or call it attention. And I remember, if you guys remember, I spoke about this a few years ago, where I was doing some nature journaling, and I went to the Back Bay, and I was discovering how the flowers actually fit and how they had different phases in the way that they went and everything. And oh, I didn't put the one up there that says big ass cactus, but I found a big ass cactus. Sorry, excuse my French. But anyway, I was really struck. I mean, it wasn't like it was new to me to really look, because I've been in the Back Bay. I mean, most of us have walked in the Back Bay, right? And you walk by flowers or you walk by the grass and you don't think much about it. But if you're to sit down and look really closely and start sketching out what's going on there, you're going to find some fascinating things that you just didn't know, like this one plant that had all these different phases of growth. And you could see it as the plant went out. It was absolutely fascinating. It was called a horehound, I believe. So, and then the other thing that I found was that the prickly cactus, which everybody's seen a prickly cactus, right? You all know what those look like. Have you ever looked at the big leaf-like thing that's on there? Those spikes on them are very regular, right? And I believe they follow the Fibonacci ratio, as a matter of fact. So these are like all these different fascinating things that if you start looking at things closely, so it's really looking at and appreciating and seeing deeper into what's actually going on there. Now, both of those ways, looking and paying attention, to me are somewhat intellectual exercises. They're exciting and they're fun, and I really enjoyed this exercise, right? But this intellectual approach, it doesn't really tell me about things. Like, it'll tell me things like appreciating Caravaggio, right? Like his chiaroscuro, that's the Italian word for high contrast, basically. So he does high contrast over there. Or, you know, Fra Angelico, he has the rule of thirds up there. You can see there's 1 panel, 2 panel, 3 panel, that kind of thing. It might explain those things, but it doesn't really explain these to me. Like, why do I like these? Like Rothko, right? I don't know, the first time I saw Rothko is he's just abstract. He just puts color up there. Like, in these different bands of color, and they don't even follow necessarily the rule of 3 or anything like that. Then there's Monet, who has usually very low contrast things. And then there's one of my favorite new artists. His name is Brad Kunkel, and he barely uses color at all. He literally uses 4 different paints. It's like white, black, umber, and then occasionally burnt sienna. That's it. And then he uses silver and gold in the background and everything, and I really love his stuff. So that all of those things that I was just talking about doesn't explain why I like this art and why I really, don't like, I'm sorry if this insults anybody, I'm not a big fan of Picasso. I'm actually not a fan of Renoir either. I don't know, there's something about his stuff just doesn't do it for me. Monet, love him. Renoir doesn't do anything for me, or Dali. Now, some people love these people. My father was a huge Picasso fan. Doesn't do anything for me, right? So why is it, right, that sort of that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And I think that it has to do with seeing, okay? So seeing is that third part, and it's kind of the deepest part of things. It's going beyond attention to the detail, attention to what's happening there, either in nature or in the art, but it's seeing connections and meaning and feeling behind something. So for example, if I go back to this, I can look at Rothko and go, and Monet, I find them so soothing to look at. There's something beautiful in the simplicity of them for me. As Kunkel, though, his paintings always have deep meaning behind them. This is a tale, actually, of a woman who tried to capture the moon, and it's a story about the power of women. And I find that fascinating. So suddenly that has much more meaning to me, right? And we all know this, right? We know this sort of intuitively. We know what we like. And I know that we had our auction last night, right? And we didn't have any art pieces in it, but we've had art pieces in it before, and they rarely go because everybody has their own aesthetic. Everybody knows what they like. And what we found is that meaning trumps aesthetics. If something has meaning for you, I don't care if it doesn't do anything for you, it's just not going to do anything. You can recognize it as beautiful. I can recognize, that Renoir is lovely, but it just doesn't do anything for me. That's just my own personal take. And so, for example, I have a quilt that hangs in my office. Some of you have seen it there. And this quilt, now, it is not a fancy quilt by any stretch of the imagination. Okay, if you guys know Lori Matilapasi's work, she's an artist quilter, and you've got Judith who does beautiful quilts. You can see her quilt for the Ukrainians that she did over there. My sister is an amazing quilter who just does things that are aesthetically just beautiful. This is not that. It is not an aesthetically beautiful quilt, but it has deep meaning for me in my ministry. It was given to me by a woman when I first met her in my first ministry in South Bend who did not like ministers at all. And she was the local curmudgeon, and she just did not like ministers. And by the time I left there, and after 2 years, she gave me that quilt as a gift and as a testament to my ministry to the church. And that is why that's why it hangs in there. Other people might look at it and go, it's just an okay quilt, But to me, it has special meaning, right? And I think probably almost everybody here knows about, your children's art, right? The art that hangs on your refrigerator, that you appreciate, you never want to throw away because it was their first art thing. Yeah, so you might even see something like this. Something scribbled on concrete, made by children. Then you go, oh, isn't that cute? And then you might just sort of pass it on, and it might not even stick in your head. Unless maybe I was to tell you that this was a gift that was left to us by one of the Ukrainian children on the floor in Suite 4. And it says grateful for the moment over there. And there's a bunch of others. If you want to, after Suite 4, you can go over there and see all of the art. I guess his mother is an artist, and he is a very talented 12-year-old artist. So this way of seeing things, of seeing where the meaning is, getting past the labels, right? Looking at something that's larger, that's part of what seeing is really about, and part of the journey of seeing as an artist. And there's a spiritual practice that my sister told me about this. There was I always mention Reddit, right? My sister belongs to a subreddit about artists, and someone posted about how hard it was to do things on their self-esteem, right? Like you just judge constantly your own stuff, and how do you get beyond that? And so my sister wrote a reply back to this person. I want to read you to this because I think it really applies to how we see beauty in the world and how to cultivate how to see. Not just look, not just pay attention, but to see. And she wrote this. She said, first of all, you need to cultivate looking for the positive, to look for beauty. It helps to do this not just with your work or your projects, your art, but with everything. And here's what I mean. See that fat guy walking down the street? Yeah, you noticed he was fat. Now notice something positive or beautiful about him. Great jacket, nice haircut, sweet smile. There is always something nice to find, always. Do this every time you find yourself thinking a negative thought, or at least as often as you can remember to do it. It takes a while to do it all the time. Now on to your work. Take a look at it. I mean, really look at it. Notice what you did right. Really find what went well. There's always something, often several things, many things even. Compliment yourself. And when you find yourself saying, but, oh my God, I've done that so many times. You say, no buts, you nailed that part. And don't worry about losing perspective. Trust me, that negative voice is always going to be there. Cultivate the positive, cultivate beauty. Learn to hear it, use it, and have it become natural to you. This could take a while. In the meantime, it's a fun thing to learn. Now, my sister told me about this because she had posted this 5 years ago. And the person who wrote the original post about their self-esteem wrote to her and said, I've been practicing this and it's changed my life. My sister was so proud. She's like, oh, Sean, I gotta tell you, this is so cool. So this is something that can change your life, to see beauty and to notice it wherever you go. And I think that's part of what seeing is for all artists. So I invite you to try this as a spiritual practice, that beautiful vision, stay with me all the time. Beautiful vision, stay ever on my mind with your beautiful vision. You know, the art of sensibility, this seeing, right? So we've got looking, paying attention, and seeing. I think this is art of sensibility, and people have different abilities in all of these. What they can see beyond what is physically beautiful, let's see where the beauty lies within, whether it's in the story, in the color, the line, that's where they find beauty. That's where we all find it. So this is what I finally learned after my 5 years of studying art and doing it myself, is that it's really no longer a mystery to me. It's something that takes skill, and you constantly need to work at it, but it's not just the skill of drawing, it's the skill of seeing differently, learning what's beautiful to you, and being okay for other things that may not be, but always finding something beautiful. It's like searching for the holy, right? For God. It's a spiritual practice. And that's what art has taught me, that when you approach everything with wonder, with freedom, with joy, everything has beauty in it. So let us sing.
I seek the spirit of a child who meets life naturally, the child who sings the world alive and greets the morning sun with glee. Children are real beyond all art. May I see joy's a gift to our heart. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, who lights our day with just a smile and shines that light on all we see. Children are real beyond all fears. May I see hope's a gift to our tears. I seek the wonder of a child who sees delightfully, who drowns in cloud, now golden sun, imagination's true and free. Children are real beyond all odds. May I see faith's a gift to our eyes.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting Stand Up for Kids Orange County. In 2020, 89% of the youth that they housed transitioned from crisis to self-sufficiency. Their goal is to reach them before they reach the point of no return. You can read more about them at standupforkids.org. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and Stand Up for Kids. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, use an app called Vanco Mobile, or send us a check. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. And he would read the holy word and concentrate the holy bread. And everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now.
When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. Now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle.
Everything's a miracle. Water from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. But now I have to hold my breath, like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done.
This morning outside I stood
And saw a little red-winged bird
shining like a burning bush.
and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when in church let out how things have changed since then.
Everything is holy now.
It used to be a world half there,
Holy second-rate
hand-me-down.
but I walk it with a reverent hand.
'Cause everything is holy now.
Please join us in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts that we receive.
Gathered together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
It's always so wonderful to share Sunday morning with you all. And now's that time when you get to share as well, if you would like to. It's a time to honor important events and people in our lives. It's a weekly ritual that we call Joys and Sorrows. And you're invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, to participate in this. And the way that we do this is you can come forward to light a candle up here to express your joy or sorrow, to embody it. But if you would like to share your joy or sorrow with the congregation, you can do it in one of two ways. You can write it out on the slip of paper that actually Sue over here can hand you if you would like. Just write it out, hand it to me when you come up to light your candle, and then I'll read them out loud. And if you're on Zoom, you can write it in the chat. My wonderful assistant, Lori Kluge, who's one of our pastoral care associates, she'll light it for you. All right, so I invite you to come forward to light your candle, and as all of you, I invite you, as music is played, to silently offer healing or celebration as you feel called and according to your own beliefs. Thank you, Donna. All right, I'm going to read those online first. Let's see here. So hi, Zoomers. Just want to say hello. So Sarah Jones, who is our administrator, as many of you know, she said, please light a candle of caring for my 3-year-old granddaughter, Jordan, who was in the hospital this weekend. She is home now and doing much better. Yay. And Hannah Anderson, welcome back, Hannah. She says, please light a candle of gratitude for me. She said, I've been sick for the past month and I'm finally feeling better again. It feels so good to be able to breathe again. Yeah, it does. Glad you're feeling better. And Howard Woke and his family, they say joy for all the great chili and cornbread yesterday. I love it. He's got emojis for corn and bread. All right. And Matthew Patterson, he says he's got a joy. He said he got to enjoy the day at the Irwindale Ren Fair yesterday with his husband Alex and our wonderful friend Echo. So many people and wonderful memories made. Our only sorrow is that we missed the auction yesterday. Yeah. I'm glad you had fun. All right. And then let's see here. Sarah Hunter, she says, please light a candle for Rob. That's her husband. He's still in the hospital with wonderful care. He's had a few platelet transfusions, and we learned how low the blood banks are. So she invites us all to please donate blood. They are very quite low. So if you can, please donate. And Ava Lou says, my daughter Natasha, who lives with us, just left to join Cosme, that's her husband, in Chile at the family home there. I'm now home alone for the next 3 weeks. I think this is the first time in about 50 years. Oh, let's all reach out. Group hug for Ava Lou. Hey, hon. All right, so I want to read the ones that are from here in Daniel's Hall. For the roomers, Tatiana Hauser, I feel funny reading this, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. She says, Candle of Joy. She says, beautiful and meaningful sermon. Thank you, Sean. You're welcome. And Donna McCartney, she says she has a candle of joy. She says, I am joyful that I am going to Hawaii next Sunday for the first time. I won't be with you, but I will send you aloha love from Hawaii. Awesome. Thank you. All right. And Judith S., she has lit a candle of healing, she said, for her son Corey, who's recovering from a bout of viral meningitis. And I think every parent here can agree that when she says, I wish I was there to take care of him. Yeah. So let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadness, whether they were spoken or whether they're silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect with one another. Let all these moments remind us that we're not alone. I invite you now to join Lori in a spirit of prayer or meditation.
Beautiful Vision by Van Morrison. Beautiful vision, stay ever on my mind. Beautiful vision, stay with me all of the time with your beautiful vision. In the darkest night, you are shining bright. You are guiding light, showing me wrong from right. Beautiful vision, stay with me all of the time. Beautiful vision, stay ever on my mind with your beautiful vision, with your beautiful vision. And so it be. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet, when we gather together, whether we are in the room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, we invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you are a Zoomer, or if you are a roomer, to stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from. Yes.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
I'm Catherine. I live in Dana Point, and
I'm Chelsea. I'm from Aliso Viejo.
Welcome. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for a weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out, and we will help you get connected.
All right, and announcements. There's a number of different things I want to point out to you. First of all, I have an announcement from Nancy Locker. She's the president of the congregation, but Jolyn Ibanez is the chair of the auction last night. So on behalf of Jolyn, I wanted to let you know that many thanks to all the volunteers, the sellers and the buyers who made last night's spring auction a great success. We raised more than $11,000. Yay. And we had loads of fun and community. Now I guess there's a few unsold items that are available out on the patio after the service. So so go over, it's that way. So back that way. So go check those out and sign up for anything that might still be left. Let's see here. I also want to point out, now, I love Lori Kluge. She's one of our pastoral care associates, but she was actually not scheduled to be today. That was supposed to be Marilyn Giss, our congregational nurse, who has arranged for the fall prevention workshop. And the reason why she wasn't here was because she fell. Yeah. So she said, use me as an example. Tell them to sign up for the fall prevention workshop. June 4th. So sign up for that. Just send her an email. If you don't have it, just send me one or see me afterwards, and I'll get you signed up for that. So we want to make that, we really need this, okay, y'all? So go to a fall prevention workshop. The other thing is next Sunday, there's going to be a safety team meeting here. So prior to COVID, we were doing a lot of stuff around safety around here because unfortunately, if you remember last Sunday, there was a very unfortunate event that happened down in Laguna Woods. And that's got us thinking about safety again and how we can make things as safe as possible here on Sunday morning. With COVID, it kind of got away from us, and now we're like, oh, that's right, we got to get back on this. So Alan Block is the chair of the safety committee, and he's looking for more safety members. So please come to that or see Alan after the service. Alan, you want to raise your hand? There you go. So see Alan after the service, and we're going to then look at doing training and what we can do to keep this place safe in all the different ways that we need to keep it safe. Let's see here. What else? We got all sorts of different things going on there. Oh, I wanted to also mention that, so with our Ukrainian refugees, now they're all up in LA at the place, so you can come and pick up your stuff that you donated. If you donated stuff, you need to take it out of Suite 4 and also go check out the wonderful drawings on the floor. There's more than what I showed you up there. There's a Ukrainian flag on there. I didn't do that because I thought that would tell you what was going on. But they do need blankets. So if you brought blankets, go back there. And if you're willing to donate the blankets, put them aside. There's a purple blanket, put it on top of that one. That's one I'm donating. See Tatiana if you're unsure. They don't need towels and they don't anymore, and they don't need sheets anymore or any of the pillows. They have all of that. So if you have a question about what they may or may not need, just see Tatiana. Tatiana, you want to raise your hand? There you go. But you have basically until Thursday to pick up your stuff, or it's going to be donated to Goodwill. So we got to get that stuff out of there. All right. I think that is basically it. So let us sing our benediction. You all are a beautiful vision. This service is over. Let our service continue.